Happy New Year and welcome back to the JONATHAN BENAIAH Podcast. Now, for context, if you've not listened to the previous sections of this exciting episode, be sure to pause this particular one and go back and listen to those 4 earlier sections. In this 5th segment of the episode on 2022, a year in review, my guest and I will discuss one of the biggest conservation stories in Uganda for the year 2022, Uganda's eventual decision to open up private conservancies. Now let me just come back home, back to Brian and Bentique. This year alone, I did see several of our conservation agencies celebrating anniversaries. I did see the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, that's UWEC, celebrated 70 years. I had Bahanji Bashir, the communications manager of the Uganda Wildlife Authority, on the podcast. I had him on the podcast a couple of weeks back, and we did talk about conservation, but he did also talk about their anniversary, their Silver Jubilee, 25 years of existence. And if I go to the continental level, we had the African Wildlife Foundation was also celebrating 60 years of existence. Now, if I just move away from the celebrations, I'm one of the few people that is placed in a position where I'm fortunate to get some of the news before it gets public. And one of the biggest stories of this year was the establishment of Uganda's first conservancies. There's been a lot of work that AWF has been doing with UWA behind the scenes to do assessment in the Murchison Falls Conservation Area, in the Lake Mburo Conservation Area, in the Kidepo area as well. But one of the bigger stories was that story that involved the Giants Club taking on the management of Uganda's biggest wildlife reserve, that's Pianupe Wildlife Reserve. Now, of course, I hear they're bringing on board experience from folks like African Parks, who have had their mark on the continent when it comes to conservancies, and they've got experience. So I'd like to know what are your thoughts like? How do you feel about this new development that is happening in the world of conservation in Uganda?
And I must say, everything that has happened in these recent times, at some point I'm really grateful that we have had a conversation about it earlier. Remember, Jonathan, we talked about this whole thing of having people, other organizations take over. And with due respect, it's not because we think Uganda Wildlife is not doing enough or has failed. We were just thinking like having these national parks, because you see, it's the over-governing body, organ, or authority. With due respect, it has really done a lot. But when you have in these other people coming into play and giving them some of the places, then they will also, because if you look at some places like, when was the last time you went to, say, Ajay?
Ajay, it's been a while.
Matheniko, Bokora.
Matheniko, yeah. Between
we literally just drive through.
That's how
yes, you just drive through. Nobody ever takes time. Yes. The only reason as to why Pianupe is people are starting to go to Pianupe is because it has been pulling that attention, you know? Yeah. And now they're trying to make it into a national park from a game reserve. So if these people were given these particular reserves and stuff, I think the efforts they put into that whole place makes it also another attraction. And it's the country benefiting, because when we have in more places that can attract tourists, then we're not going to start thinking about the effects of mass tourism.
Yeah.
Because if we had everyone going to Murchison Falls, then at the end of the day, I'm going to start crying about mass tourism. And now, you know, but then, yeah.
Yeah, Brian, do you want to share your thoughts?
If I may, sometimes when such clubs come on board, as a destination, we get a whole picture of public relations. That is one thing. If you look back in a destination, in Rwanda, for example, if you look at Akagera National Park, you realize that, yes, I think it has pulled the destination as Akagera to the map, because it suffered significant poaching back in the days during the civil wars and, the genocide periods. That's around the period of like between 1992 to 1996, around there. So by the time African parks came in to be on board and see if they can manage the destination, I think as a national park, it has grown. The numbers have been recorded. We all know. I've been lucky to at least experience Akagera on a different perspective. But same as when we, our wilderness took over Giswati Mokora, no one knew actually that forest would existed. Yeah. On a tourism perspective, we would just pass it as we head to Akagera while driving. So, but surprisingly, when the owners of Bisati Lodge and Magashi Camp in Akagera took over the forest, there's actually development that is going to happen, which actually started being given a concession of like, I think 25 years. I think they were added an extra.
I think even if it was 50 years, I would be fine with it.
If you look at all these things, and if we have, let's say, for example, now the Space for Giants are wanting to take over Pian-Upi, guess what? We are now going to also have, the big guys come to put up properties there.
Yeah, exactly.
So attracting the quality and the attention from
I'm only praying when they're given the whole thing is they try to limit this whole mushrooming of lodges. Something that I really hate about some of them.
So if we have such players in the industry, the country grows on an international level as well.
Yeah, I'd like to just ask Leatile. Leatile, do you guys have conservancies in Botswana, or are
yes, we
all
do.
your protected areas under like your I don't know, is it called the Wildlife Authority, the government?
Yeah, we do. We have private and the government ones, like the Wildlife Department for regulating all these private ones, because some they choose what. We have the cheetah club, we have the lion conservation, wild dogs, elephant conservation, koi exist. There are too many conservations in Botswana. Safe elephants.
Yeah.
Elephants without borders. I
would be rather surprised if Botswana didn't have, because Botswana has a big say when it comes to attracting tourists.
Yes,
because they really have a.
Would you consider what would you consider to be like the biggest gains or biggest benefits of having such private players support the government in preserving and conserving those protected areas?
Because the conservation organizations are really good because mostly they interact more with locals. They need more locals than we need them, because they have to know how we used to live with animals and which measures should they take when to do this and to do that.
Impact of employment as well.
Yeah.
I only have one challenge, I think, that may come up with this whole conservancies. One, actually, let me just say it's one. Like it's fear. It's not really a challenge. It's a fear. It's the fear of with the private entities coming into play. If the government arm is lazy, we can easily have wildlife trade coming back into play.
It's possible, and it has happened. I think we won't deny the fact that that can come into play. But if we look at the bigger picture here, is that we are trying to see if these big players come on board, there is going to be change from employment. True.
They attract investment.
Yeah.
There's
investment. There's PR, which is actually
PR is something big.
Yeah. And then the other thing is the ability to also restock
animals.
Some of the species. The original species of the.
Some of these have funny.
Yes, because at the end of the day, you see, when someone actually privately manages a specific space in a gazetted area, there is also a quality. I've gone to conservancies for like and beyond, the bush camps in Mara and all those sorts. But you realize that as much as yes, they are attracting the quality and the top dollar paying clients, it helps. So there are quite a number of projects that happen. So and beyond as well alone has like a big school around the Mara. So the children are not actually just there, because these are children that can actually grow into becoming poachers. If they are not, you know.
So they are teaching. They are in a way. So they are teaching conservation is being.
Conservation is taught from the base. So without such players, there's a mixed feelings of, you know, okay, if you don't leave this area, you know, you'll be like any other person. For example, like the Maasai people. If the Maasai Mara, for example, is strictly a local managed national park, game reserve, but the fact that it has private conservancies that have actually as well put it on the map to be this popular. So if we had such players as well, I think we would be there in a public relations perspective, but as well also considering the fact that there is I think managing people, wildlife, and the land.
I think collectively we need to agree that the advantages of having conservancies
they outweigh
the negatives. This one at least we need to agree.
And maybe let me just speak on a friend of mine, Abby, as if you're tuned in. I remember I took you to Pian Upe and you weren't so happy. But I'm one of the biggest advocates.
I tell you something, Jonathan. Abias, I'm not reporting. One day I was sitting with Abias somewhere. I told him, I have guests actually going to Pian Upe. And I said, what is in Pian Upe?
Abias, I told you Pian Upe is a prospect. So just give it a couple of years, you'll thank me.
She'll be shocked.
Maybe I should encourage you to buy some land nearby and possibly put up a safari camp in the coming years. You'll thank me. All right, guys, we're going to take a short break just so the guys here can drink some water.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we'll wind things down. The conversation will continue after the short break. Indeed, we hope the big boys live up to their reputation and breathe, if I could call it, the much-needed life into some of these deserted wild places. Now, coming up in the 6th and final segment of this exciting episode, my guests and I will have another hot chat on mass tourism, borrowing experience from the successes that Botswana has seen with offering a low-impact tourism experience. We will also discuss the meetings and conference subsector, as well as have a discussion on African content creation with an outlook into the new year. As we always say, the podcast is available on all major streaming platforms, including Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Radio Republic, Pocket Casts, and several other platforms. All right, I'll see you in the 6th and final section.